Today's webinar is part of our Being a Coach, i.e. the stuff that we actually practically do in our lives as coaches. And I am the panel today. Yes, Vinita, but Kamal has been kind enough to join me, so I'm not feeling as awkward as I have been before, just a little less awkward. And hopefully she can ask me the kinds of questions that I am not thinking of. So you guys can be mad at Kamal if she doesn't ask them, not me. You didn't know you were signing up for this, did you? Well, so on your screen, you have a little Menti prompt, which I will also one more time stick in the chat. There you go. If you have any specific questions about SEO or search engine optimization, which is a tongue twister for me and I can never say it properly, search engine optimization, SEO, tell me and we will do our best as a group to hopefully answer them. But if you are not here for a session about SEO, it's okay if you leave. I'm not going to be offended. So let's just take a look at our questions quickly. And please add them as we go. I will keep this open in the background. So if you want to add a question later, totally cool. But hopefully we can answer all of these. So let's get started and take a look at the questions. So what words are people using is a big one. Is investment in SEO really worth it? Does it make a difference if we buy and build the website using Google services? Whoever asked that, please clarify. Do you mean Google's website builder? Is that what you're referring to? Because that's important. What are okay, yes, thank you. What are the most important things to learn in SEO? What tools do you need? And more keywords, 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 keywords. Cool, makes sense. Keywords are fun. So, Kamal, can you confirm that you can now see my presentation? Yeah, okay, cool, because I don't know how Zoom works even after God knows how long we've been using it. I don't want my whole screen. Okay, well, you know what? It is what it is. So, Kamal, I will politely ask that if anyone in the chat is asking something or commenting, you just jump in, just cut me off. Thanks. Okay, DIY SEO. That's why we are here today. And DIY is do it yourself. Why? Because I'm making some assumptions in this session. And what's really funny is that I first made this presentation in 2017, just after I joined Coacharia, a few months after I joined Coacharia. And you'll see an example from Coacharia. And I made this presentation for a group of small business women, small business owners who are women or women small business owners in Chicago, in like a community type thingo. And as I went through it last night, I've amended this a few times since then, but not very much. So the reason why I think that's important is that, you know, the world of SEO is changing a lot. So for those of you who are completely new to it, you'll learn from the basics. That's good for you. Those of you who have been dabbling in SEO in the past, you may be like, hold on, Magda, but the Google algorithm is changing and this and that. Yes, the world of SEO is a crazy beast. There's a reason why there's so many companies specializing in SEO. But the basics are basic and they have not changed. And what we will attempt to do today is go through those basics, and I'll show you in a second what we're going to go through today to hopefully answer all of your questions. But long story short, to me, SEO is something that it's not as worth the investment, it's essential. And by that, I mean, I don't mean go and pay a company to do it. I just mean it's something that you need to think about and something that should be part of your business thinking, not necessarily marketing or sales thinking, but just your business thinking. Because, you know, just like your website is your shop front, right? Your homepage is your shop front. All the other pages in your website are your store. Your social media is what your customers or your potential customers who maybe walked by your store or heard about your store are saying about you. And search engine optimization is the thing that helps people discover your store. So all these things are connected. I don't think you should be doing one or the other. But I do think this is essential. Like imagine if you started a beautiful store. Yeah, I'm in Chicago. We have the Magnificent Mile. You're paying a lot for that real estate, and then you block out your windows and you don't put a sign up, and you don't publish your store hours, and no one like even knows that you're there. Why spend the money on that location? Same with SEO. So assumptions. I'm assuming that most of you hopefully know the difference between SEO and SEM. If you don't, that's okay. Search and okay, Kamal says no, that's fine. I'll be brief. Search engine marketing refers to all the things you see marked as advertising or ads or sponsored when you're on the web. So in search results, actually this could be a good exercise as we go. Maybe open up another screen in your browser and type in a search that you think is related to your business in some way. Doesn't matter what it is. Just type in a search in Google and just examine that page that you see. And yes, I could screen share that exercise, but the fun part of SEO and Google is that everything is personalized now. So unless you're an incognito view, that's kind of the incognito view in your browser is the closest you're going to get to seeing search results that are universal. When I made this presentation, even, it was already changing. Right now, there's no such thing as universal search results. So your search results will look different for me, for Kamal, even if I had an identical twin. And that twin had the like completely identical, same thought process, same everything. But she was in the house next door. She might see different results than I will, because all that stuff impacts what Google shows you. But look at the thing you just Googled on your screen, whatever it is. Chances are, unless you want to really, really, really specific, you're going to see some stuff on top and potentially some stuff on the side. And anything that is marked as an advertising, ad, sponsored, different terms in different countries, that is what I'm referring to when I talk about search engine marketing, because it's literally marketing in search engines. Whereas search engine optimization, I hate that word, search engine optimization, or SEO, which I will now use because I've said that tongue twister for me enough times. SEO is all the other stuff that you see on the page that is not sponsored. So is the organic results. And that includes images, it includes video, it includes all the stuff you see text below, it includes news, map listings. There's a lot of different places where Google looks for information when you put in a search term into the search thingy. So is that clear, Kamal? Yes, no? And also, are there...
Magda, I have a question. When
Yes.
you say search incognito, what do you mean exactly?
Okay, so in your browser, I'm using Chrome, so I don't know what other browsers you guys are using to access the internet, but by default, what you browse, different places, including your computer, your internet service provider, including Google and the websites you visit, everyone is tagging you with cookies or other things to track your behavior. Okay, so that is not incognito. Whether you are logged in somewhere or not, you're being tracked. It's a fact. To go, if you want to prevent some, but not, it's actually not all, but some of that tracking on you, you can use incognito mode. So in Chrome, for example, when you go to File and open a new window, right below that, you'll see Open in Incognito mode or Open Incognito window. So it's basically private mode in Safari. I'm not sure what Internet Explorer uses. I don't know if that still exists as a browser. Point is, it's like the private browsing mode. Cool? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Whoops, sorry. So, okay, I need to move quicker. Assuming that nobody here has a firm that's working on SEO for you. If you do, good job. That's awesome. I don't, I've had them before. There's probably a reason I don't use them anymore. It's just really expensive. You already have a website? So we're not going to discuss putting a website together today. We can do that another time. You have your social media accounts set up. And that was your homework from, I think, 2 sessions ago. Everybody was supposed to set up their basic social media. So hopefully it's a big tick. And last week or last month, everybody was supposed to set up their Google Analytics for the website. So I'm also assuming that is still a fact. So if you did your homework, you're in good shape. There'll be homework today too. And last assumption, you don't have money for SEO, which frankly at Coacharia, we don't either. Because again, it can be very expensive because it is. We'll go into that in a sec. So that's assumptions. Why can't I? There we go. How we're going to get started with SEO. So here's the things we're going to cover today. And look, I will breeze through some of these because we have a limited amount of time and I don't want to completely confuse everybody. I will put this up on our website. The video will be available and you know how to reach me. All the socials, send me, I'm Magda Makes It on the socials. Send me questions, comments, whatever. You can email me, you can contact us through the website. We want to build up resources that actually help our coaches and the coaching community in general, not just Coacharia coaches. So please don't worry if something goes completely over your head. I know that I take for granted a lot of stuff that I say because I've been doing, like, my career has been in marketing. So I'm sorry if I confuse you, but I will do my best to unconfuse you. Anyway, so things we're going to do, we're going to set up measuring tools. We're going to look at keyword research, which seems to be a popular thing. We're going to look at some analysis. We're going to identify what are the basic things that you should be doing, no matter what, even if you don't believe in SEO. Hopefully you believe in vaccines because they're both things that you need. Anyway, where to dedicate your time since you don't have the budget or people to do it, how you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and bonus points for anybody who gives me a better analogy. I hate killing any birds. You should not be killing birds under any circumstances, but I don't have a better thing to say. So give me a better analogy. And we're going to look at checking in on your progress, because what's the point of doing something if you're not measuring results? You're all coaches, right? At the end of your coaching conversation, hopefully your client has some action items. So we will hear too. Cool. All right, free tools. What's really good is that if you did your homework last month, you have 2 of these. Woohoo! What was point number 6? Sorry, I'm just going to go back. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone where possible. We're going to talk about multitasking. That's what it's going to be. All right. So my suggestion is that we go through the slides, and then based on how exploding people's brains are, Kamal will do her best to tell me what to focus on / log into things so we can look at stuff live. But what I don't want to do is go back and forth, because I think we can go down rabbit holes with all this stuff really, really, really easily. Like, honestly, we could spend hours on each point that I'm going to bring up here. So it's okay if something, again, goes over your head. All right, Search Console. What is Search Console? So Search Console is the thing that tells you how you're doing on Google. It measures your visibility of your website out on the web in terms of the Google universe, right? So if anybody here uses Bing, Yahoo's now Microsoft, I guess, search engine, what's the word? Google has a monopoly, but if you use Bing, Bing has their own version of Webmaster Tools, which are also good. But because I have limited time, I just use the Google stuff because it just makes life easy for me, which is, I guess, why they are, a monopoly. But yeah, Google Search Console is a thing that shows you how your website looks on the web. So what you need to do is you need to just Google Search Console and follow the steps to set it up. And we can look at that in a sec if you need to. And I just realized this set up both HTTPS and HTTP versions is no longer actually relevant. So I should delete this. What this means though is when you type in your web address, so coacharia.com, before that, you used to say www. You don't have to anymore, like no matter what your website's going to resolve. There's also the HTTP, so it's the internet protocol. And there's HTTP, which is just, normal. And then the S stands for secure. So any of you who are using third-party sites like Squarespace or Wix to build your website, most likely your site is already on HTTPS and it's already secured, because that's one of the benefits you get for paying for a service like that. If you have your own website that you're hosting independently, so Cocharia, for example, we host our own website, we need to make sure that we also purchase a security certificate in order to get that little S, which we have. It's important because it literally makes your site more secure, both for you and for your users. But from search engine perspective, it also makes a difference. Google, I think it was like a year and a half ago or something, said that it's not going to rank things that are not secure anymore, or it's going to make them further. I forget what the actual thing was, but the S actually matters in this conversation. So to see how your site looks like in search engine world, set up Search Console. And what you get there is you actually get the data of what are people searching that my website comes up for. So if you go back to the window that you have opened earlier with the search that you put in, all the stuff that isn't advertising, if your site was showing up for that search in Search Console, you would see that data point. So Magda's coaching school, which doesn't exist, if I searched for that and my website showed up, I would have that phrase in there, as well as any variations of it. It would also show me, based on that search term, how many people are, like how many times is that result showing up, so impressions. It's going to show me how many times people click on my result. So that's the clicks. If you divide clicks by impressions, you get your click-through rate. It'll show you that. It'll also show you the position on the page that your site shows up for that particular query. So if you think to your own behaviors of when you search the web, I'm sure you'll realize that you rarely click on page 2. You rarely keep scrolling, right? We usually kind of trust that the results we're seeing on top are the ones that are relevant. So that's how click behavior goes. It's not necessarily like it's not necessarily like a top-down pattern, but it's more like a Z pattern. Just like when you read, at least in the Western languages where we read from left to right, your eye kind of follows a Z or Z pattern. Same with search engine result pages. You usually look at the top left, you kind of look to the right, and then that's how your eye goes. So the higher you are in those positions, the more likely your site is to get clicked. So all that data you will get from Search Console. And what's really cool is that you also get data on particular pages. So when you're first starting out with your website, there isn't much that you're showing up for. But as you build and as you add pages and as you rank for more terms, this data set will become even more rich. So for example, at Cocharia, let's say the search is executive coaching. Okay, we do that as part of our business. There's several pages that show up for the search term executive coaching. In Search Console, I can see what those pages are, and I can make a decision which page is most successful, and I can then decide where to invest my time in improving my website. Google Analytics is the next step, right? So once someone finds you in Google, they click and they're on your website. Google Analytics tells you what happens once they get there. There's, again, a whole course we can do. In fact, actually, you should look it up. Google has fantastic free resources for small business owners. You should definitely do their basic Google Analytics course, because data is power. Even if your website's really small, you can get some good insights. So I highly recommend you do that. In fact, that's your homework. Sign up for a little free course from Google. But the way that how this plays out in this conversation in terms of SEO is once someone clicks on your results, I mean, that's great, but a click is not worth that much, right? It's what they do with it that matters. So if someone comes to Cocharia and we rank for a bunch of random things as well. For example, we have our clients page where we have a bunch of different companies' logos. Because some of those companies aren't very well optimized for search engines, we get traffic on a regular basis for someone searching for that company's logo. It has nothing to do with Coteria. They're not going to take any action. Maybe they'll download the logo because they need it. That's not a relevant click, right? So I don't care if you rank for that. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to just decide, okay, well, this month or this today I had 100 clicks from search. Good job. Nope. I need to look at Google Analytics, and that'll tell me what did people do once they clicked. If they just went to the download Tata logo page, that does not help me. If they go and they read a blog post and submit a lead, or maybe, register for a webinar, those are good things. So that's why Google Analytics is important. If you're in WordPress, so if you're using Wix or other whatever places, tools, software to build your website, ignore this part. But if you have a WordPress site, I highly recommend downloading Yoast SEO or something similar. I use Yoast, and we pay for the premium one. It's like $60, I think, or something for the year. But it's a great little plugin that helps you optimize pages as you go. Again, we can look at that separately. Just a little, check. And finally, Google AdWords. So you know how earlier we talked about SEM versus SEO, marketing versus optimization. So Google AdWords is in the SEM space. It's actually called ads now. So ads.google.com, I believe, is the new URL. But in there, it's all about bidding and paying for keywords, right? That's great. But guess what? You can use that tool to research your keywords and not pay for them. So at Coteria, we do some advertising through Google Ads, not on text ads, but that is something to consider for sure. And we can do another session on SEM, so don't worry about that. It's definitely worth exploring. But there's a keyword tool. So when you're planning your marketing campaigns in Google Ads, you do keyword research to understand what is the volume of search for that keyword. Are people engaging with that keyword? How expensive is it? How competitive? That's how I use Google Ads for SEO, because it tells me what's competitive. So it tells me, okay, Magda, maybe the word coaching is out of your reach. Coteria is not going to rank for the word coaching, so stop trying. Okay, stop trying to make fetch happen. Hopefully someone got that reference. Again, maybe someone's going to tell me, Magda, we're too young for you, but whatever. So we're not going to make fetch happen, but I definitely recommend looking at that. So we can look at that later. Coteria is built on WordPress. Yes, we use WordPress. I like WordPress because there's many reasons to not like WordPress. Don't get me wrong. I love WordPress because it's customizable, and someone who's hands-on like me, WordPress is great because I get to go in there and play and add things and optimize, and I know what I'm doing. Versus if I'm paying for a third-party tool for website builder, I'm limited as to what I can do. So it's definitely, benefit comparison type dealio to go through. For us, it makes sense. So that's your free SEO tools. Everybody's homework is to make sure that you check them out before our next session, which I think we should do on SEM. Keyword research. That's what. Yes.
Can I pop in a question? So when you said that you can buy words,
yes,
what happens? What advantage do you get when you buy words?
You basically force the search engine, or you attempt to force the search engine to show your website in cases where you are not able to have that rank by itself. So if you go back to the page that you've opened where you have made your search, anything that says sponsored, that's what I'm talking about, or anything that says ad. Okay. So all of those are based on a live ongoing auction. The more people bid and the more money they bid, the higher it's going to cost you if somebody clicks on that word. So that's search engine marketing. So that's what we're going to talk about at the next session.
Okay.
Cool.
I also noticed one thing. I don't know if this is the point to bring that observation. So when I search in my search engine, when I'm already logged into my account, it shows me all those ads in the beginning, and then the rest of the stuff comes. When I'm not logged into any of the account and I'm doing the search, it doesn't show me any ads.
Yeah. So because Google is keeping track of your behavior and your preferences.
Through
You
my
have a rich
logins.
profile through your logins, through not just through your logins, but also through places where you're not logged in, but you've been cookied. So Google has a vast network. It takes account into the pages you visited, the things you searched for, and then what you clicked. So like it has personalized preferences for you. So when you're logged in, Google has a very rich profile for you, and it's going to show you what it thinks is most relevant. And of course, it says that, no, we're always going to show you the non-paid results as well. But let's be honest, this is how they make money. But this is kind of going back to that first point. This is why SEO, there's no such thing as universal search results. Everybody's search results are going to be different, even different devices. My dad called me yesterday because there was this, he's looking for tires, and he's been searching on stuff on his phone, and he's like, well, when I search here, I get the result, but if I go on my computer, I can't find it. And I'm like, okay, just click on here and copy and paste the URL and you'll find it. He's like, but why isn't it the same? I'm the same person. And he's logged into both browsers. So it just tells you like how different these things are, because taking into account that he's, at a job site on his phone, he's a contractor, versus at home on his desktop, and the results are different. So it's going to be, honestly, every time you search on the same device, it could be different. So that's the bit that sucks for us marketers. Based on location too. Yep, Vinita, you have a very good point. All these things go into account. So this is actually one reason why people will want to potentially bid on paid results versus focus on what we're talking about today, which is the natural organic stuff that we're not paying for. Because your chances of showing up for more search results are going to be higher if you're paying to play, right? If you never bought the shop on Michigan Avenue, you're not going to show up on Michigan Avenue. Maybe you're 2 avenues over. So it's annoying, but that's how we talk about these things, and we do our best. So I think I have an example after this. Let me just double check to make sure. Yes, I have an example. Okay, so keyword research. We're all in coaching. It doesn't mean that we're going to get discovered if someone looks for coaching. It also doesn't mean that that's the most relevant term for someone who is looking for coaching. So when I think about keyword research, I don't necessarily focus on the keywords first. The first thing that you need to think about is mapping out your customer journey. Like literally get a piece of paper. I highly recommend doing things with your hand. It just, I'm sure as a learning person, learning expert in here, just stuff like sticks with you more. So I'm a big fan of, pen to paper. I have a whiteboard and I have like wallpaper, chalkboard wallpaper that I have put up. And that's where I doodle. But like map out your customer journey. What do you think is going through someone's head and all the steps before they get to you? So, maybe some of you just woke up one day and said, I want to be a coach. I'm going to search for a coach training institute, and I want one that has the kind of approach that Coacharia does. I'm going to look for that, and you found us. And that's awesome. And frankly, like something like 60 to 70, about 70% of people who end up joining Coacharia find us through organic search, not the specific, I want to be a Coacharia coach, but other things. So this is worthwhile. But think about the journey they've gone through. So, we'll look at the example in a second, but, mapping this out like in steps is really, really helpful for a number of reasons, not just SEO, because it puts you in the frame of mind of your customer. You need to understand your customer in order to be able to find your customer and to service your customer, right? So if you're a coach, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily just doing one-on-one coaching. You could be doing training, you could be a specialist, you could be doing coaching and something. So just think about, what is the thing that you do, or what are the things that you do? And potentially you could have multiple customer journeys, right? Especially if you're maybe working with children and working with, elderly. Those are 2 very different paths to get the person to you. So literally write it out. What are the steps? What's the person thinking of? Where are they sitting, do you think? Like, is this something that they're walking their dog and all of a sudden they think and on their phone they type something? Or is it, something they've been thinking about? just write it down, whatever you think makes sense. And what you should end up with eventually is literally like a linear or maybe slightly convoluted, but a journey that takes someone from whatever you think is the first thought they had about ending up with you eventually to them literally becoming your customer. And that's going to give you a lot of rich ideas for keywords, which we'll look at in a second. If you're already dabbling in website anything, this is why we set up the tools first. Because even if you didn't take any actions, but you have a website, you're already ranking for something. Just like, a couple months ago, we talked about social media. Just because you're not active, it doesn't mean people aren't looking for you. Like, things are already happening, whether you like it or not. SEO is one of those things. So your site either is or isn't showing up. People either are or are not interacting with you. So you might as well see what is happening. And Google Analytics and Search Console will give you that insight. So for example, if it's blogs you already have on your website, right? That means there's going to be some keywords that Google is picking up. And if you have any visits from organic search results, those will be recorded both in Search Console as well as in Google Analytics. And you can go in there and you can decide, okay, well, my site is showing up for coaching with dogs. Is that awesome? Yes, it is objectively, I think. But if that's not something that you do and you have a random article about it, then you kind of know, okay, that's weird. Maybe I should not have any more content about coaching with dogs. Instead, I should focus on coaching with goats, which could be really cool. There's yoga with goats. Anyway, come on. I'm sorry I brought you into this. Sorry for you. Everyone else can roll their eyes.
I like all the wacky ideas.
Coaching with goats. So anyway, so use your Search Console and Google Analytics. It takes a few days for data to start coming in. So the earlier you set these up, the better, even if you don't do anything on SEO for the next year. Then in a year from now, you'll have a year worth of data. Wouldn't that be great? So homework, set it up. As I mentioned before, because you've also logged into AdWords, you can use their keyword tool. It's literally called the keyword, excuse me, just burped. We're on live TV. You can use the keyword tool to also do some keyword research, which we'll go into more depth on the keyword tool when we do our SEM session next month. So don't worry if you're like on that one. And once you do your keyword research, you prioritize what are the goals that you have. So the things that I look at is, I look at the search volume. So the keyword tool might not give me specific, like today, there's been 435,000 searches for the word coaching. Like it might not give me that specific, but it's going to tell me this is a really, like, it's going to give me like a bucket, like 1 million plus, or it's going to give me a range. And then it's also going to give me, what's it called? It's going to give me difficulty of each keyword. So what I do is I export that data so that I can then stick it in a spreadsheet and I can toggle it. I can kind of prioritize it. Okay, what are the terms that are really, really hard competitive according to Google? I'm not going to focus on that. Like I know which weight class I'm in for, my boxing match. I'm not going to be in the heavyweights if I'm a featherweight, which I actually don't know. I'm pretty heavy. Anyway, I think featherweights are under 150. I'm definitely not 150. Maybe like when I was 14. I digress yet again. Long story short, you do your research, you prioritize, and then you can take some actions. So someone asked, you have all this set up, but you're not getting much traffic. Well, that's what SEO is about, right? It's about how do we increase the traffic? So first step, we're doing the keyword research. Let's look at an example. So this is an example from Coacharia. So I joined Coacharia in 2017. Took a while to get branding in order, redo the website, et cetera, et cetera. So it was only in about September that I was able to think about, okay, what are the SEO goals for the website for the near term in order to increase traffic, which the person who just commented on that, that's exactly what you're looking at. So I try to put myself into the shoes of our potential customers. And this is just one example of what a customer could be. So I thought about, okay, one kind of customer is a manager or a team leader of some sort in an organization. and they've recognized that something needs to change, something needs to improve. Maybe because the team has goals they need to reach, or because something's not working. Whatever the reason, that could have been actually even higher, right? My team is not performing. What do I do? Could have been the first search term, frankly, that they thought of. But maybe in this case, and that I was thinking that this person's thinking, okay, maybe they need more mentoring. So I'm their leader, I'm their manager. Okay, what are some tips for mentoring my team? Then in my journey of reading about tips for mentoring my team, I found out about this thing called coaching. Oh, what's coaching? Is that different from mentoring? How is coaching different from mentoring? And by the way, all of these are search terms. These are search phrases. People don't just go to Google. Think about maybe the example that you put in the beginning. Like, did you go in and did you put coaching? Or did you put coach training school near me? Or how do I tie shoelaces? Or is Sailor really the cutest dog that ever lived or ever will live? The answer is yes. So that's how people search, right? It's rare that they search for very broad terms. If they did search for broad terms, that would be kind of their first thing. Maybe they would have searched for mentoring, then mentoring tips for my team. Every phrase like that is considered a keyword in our discussion here. So anyway, so tips for mentoring. How is mentoring different than coaching? Okay, now I know that coaching is a thing. So what makes for a good coach? Okay, so now I'm learning that there's all these areas in coaching. Okay, so how is life versus executive coaching different? Okay, now I know that all coaching becomes life coaching eventually. How do I become a coach? Since now I know that that's the thing I want to be. Then I think about, all right, well, maybe this thing is good for my career too. Or how do I get my company to recognize that this is a thing that I should do? So let's look at some credential things, like, is coaching credentials a thing? Okay, now that I know that coaching credentials are a thing, I've learned that I need to have a coach training program. So I'm going to look for a coach training program. All right, now I've learned that there's programs that are on different levels. And I've learned that there's some that are, in 6 months from now, we have to fly to California. And there's ones that I could start tomorrow at, somewhere else virtually. So next maybe search would be a virtual ACTP program. Or if I want to do it in person, for those of us, not me, maybe in Australia, where you guys are able to go outside, maybe it's ACTP program near me, because you're allowed to do something in person. And finally, okay, I want to start something tomorrow. Start coach training in May. This is the journey, right? You go from kind of broadest to what we actually want. So make sense, kind of, how to think about this? Okay. So, whoa. Where's my example? I'm going to scroll through this because I wanted to show this example because directly related to what I just showed you guys. So yes, unique value proposition. Someone said, yeah, definitely. So this is a specific example, literally, of what I thought about. So I told you guys, I joined Coacharia in June. September is when the website went live. October is when I published this blog post, which is becoming an executive coach guide. And it was literally what I've done was I thought about all the steps in the journey. And I thought about what are some questions that are completely over my head. I cannot tell you how many times I would talk to Ram and he would throw all these acronyms at me. And like, honestly, I wanted to bang my head against the wall. Like ACTP, HDAB, what the hell are you talking about? Instead, I took notes and then I tried to find my own answers as well to try to translate it to English. And that actually formed the basis for most of the website. So we try to avoid the jargon because the coaching world has enough jargon already. If any of you find something jargony, tell me, send me the specific link, because either that's legacy content and we need to rewrite it, or I got too stuck in my head and we need to rewrite it. Point is, jargon is not going to impress anybody. It's going to confuse them. Anyway, so that's how this journey started, right? I mapped out how the hell me as the incoming CEO, how do I figure out this world of accreditations? So I published this And as you can see, it was a bit of a slow start, right? These are daily visits, I think. I don't remember, I think so, for this particular page. Blah, 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 blah. It only took until, what, 6-7 months to get to a point where we've had this really steady rise. And my second little graph is showing you through today. So as you can see, just kept going up, on average, going up. Things slowed down last year for a reason, right? The world sucks. Everything has been down. Discretionary spending is down. So this makes sense to me. Does it worry me? A little bit, because I know that I haven't prioritized SEO. So this little guy right here, that's April 2021. And I see that visits are down to like this level. And that makes me very worried, because I'm also measuring, this is from analytics, by the way, these screenshots. I'm measuring the performance of this page in terms of how it shows up in search results. And in analytics, I'm measuring what happens as a result of people going to this page. So I'm measuring things like, did they contact us? Did they download something? Did they sign up for a webinar? Did they interact with some key pages? So I've actually assigned in Google Analytics values that I know that those actions have to Cocharia. So I know for a fact that this blog post has consistently given us great leads, great conversions. And frankly, I think a few of you in the audience, I know for a fact that's how you found us, which is great. But that's how SEO pays off. But it's not instantaneous, right? Like, look at this. Like, I know what I'm doing, and it took me friggin' 6 months. So I know that it can be a bit of a pain, and why people might want to try out SEM, search engine marketing, and actually paying for some stuff. Or they might not even do any of this because it sounds like, what's the point? It may feel like that sometimes, but honestly, like, the point is pretty obvious. Like, eventually it does work. So I just wanted to show this as a bit of encouragement. And then I'm going to go back to my steps. This is a lot. Holy crap. I did not even know that I put this much in here. Hold on. Where were we? Okay. Okay, this can also be an entire webinar. SEO is content, right? It's about writing content that's on your website, and then Google crawls it, something happens, and people can find it. So the first thing we did, we looked at setting up our tools to measure this stuff. Then we looked at finding some keywords, thinking about the customer journey and thinking about the phrases your customers are looking for. Now we have our list of keywords. So what? We need to write some actual content. So I'm not sure if this actually fits in this particular space, but it's here, so I must have thought it for a reason. So writing content for SEO. All of us have a lot of things to do in our small businesses. We're not going to be focusing our time on writing a specific thing for a specific keyword and then waiting for 6 months or longer for something to happen. That's just not reality. So what we need to do is look at those keywords we identified. And once we prioritize them, pick a few. And I love SMART goals, right? I love SMART goals for everything. But a piece of SMART goal that I really like is the achievable part. It's okay to pick things that you can actually do and that are relevant to your business, because then it feels good when they actually happen. So, perhaps if you are an executive coach and you only work in Chicago, maybe a keyword for you is find female executive coach in Chicago. That's pretty specific. I think that's doable for, a small business. So maybe I would pick that if I am a female and a coach in Chicago, but I'm not an executive coach, nor do I plan to be. But if I was, I think that would be reasonable for me to pick from my website, which you should not look at, by the way, because my website has not been touched since 2013, which is pretty embarrassing. Maybe that's my homework. But first and foremost, like, pick the keyword or keywords that actually describe what you do, that are actually really relevant to your business. And when you look at either writing a new piece of content for your website, like a blog post, or if you're looking at improving the homepage on your website to really focus on female executive coach in Chicago, remember, you're not actually writing for the search engine. The search engines are really smart. They are artificial intelligence enabled. They use machine learning and natural language processing to figure out what people are asking. So you should, whatever you write, you should write as if you're writing for a human. That's probably the most important thing that I can tell you. Keep that keyword in mind, but write for a human. I'm actually going to move on from this slide because this, I think we need to look at an example. So I can show you within WordPress what all these things look like, because they're getting a little technical. So these are my SEO writing tips. Writing for humans, yes, makes sense. Picking a keyword makes sense. URL is the address of the page. So there's actually some things that I think might be really confusing to people if we're not looking at an example. So I will come back to this, I promise. But for those of you who understand what these terms mean, cool beans, I will put this on our blog so you can see the slide. Oh my God, why can't I use my computer today? Seriously. Okay, we looked at a few of these things already in terms of analysis. So I'm gonna skip this. Again, I'm gonna put this into the blog. Oh gosh, how much time do we have? Holy crap. I think we need another webinar on SEO, because I just realized it's gonna take me like 10 minutes to explain each of these. Yeah, let's look at an example. Yeah, let's look at an example. Okay, I want to focus on practical things, so that's why I'm skipping ahead. And I should know this, by the way, when I did this for the first time and for the second time, this exact same thing happened. So like I should have known better, but this is more like 3 hours of content, not 1 hour. So yeah, shame on me. Sorry guys, if anyone's still even here. So being practical. Are you guys blogging? I hope that some of you are, but you're putting up content somewhere for some reason. So I think I have my own page, which I'm going to focus on. So I just went in yesterday in incognito mode, and I searched for my name. So if I was you, right, small business owner, that's what I would want to know, right? Me, the human, not necessarily Coach Aria, because it's a much bigger entity than I am. But let's pretend that it's just me. I wanted to see what is showing up, because SEO isn't just about your website, right? It's search engine optimization. It's not search engine optimization for my website only. It's about your business, you as a whole. So if I'm searching for something to do with you, I'm not looking for your website specifically. I'm looking for you or for the service you're providing. Where I find that is really kind of irrelevant, right? I might actually even be inclined to look at public platforms to find information, LinkedIn, for example. So when you think of all the phrases, don't just like Google them, right? Of course, so you can see what is happening for most people. But then look at what comes up in those search results. So my personal website doesn't come up. I think it comes up in top 10, which is not good, because again, it's shit. But the things that do come up on top, like I'm happy with that. But note that the first thing that comes up is my LinkedIn profile. It's not Coach Aria's website. So no matter what work I do on research for the Coach Aria website, the first result is my LinkedIn page. So that kind of tells me that I should make sure that my LinkedIn page is up to date and that is optimized for search engines. So that customer journey we talked about, right? What are people searching for? You don't necessarily have to do work on your website in order to capture people to go there. If LinkedIn is where you're already active, for example, just for social media sake, maybe that's also where you should be publishing articles. Maybe your website isn't the best place for that, but LinkedIn Pulse, I think it's called, right? Maybe LinkedIn is a good place for that. So if you are a coach, an executive coach in Chicago, happens to be female, maybe my articles on LinkedIn shouldn't be about why dogs are the best and cats are trying to kill us, which both are true. It doesn't have anything to do with my female coach for women in Chicago executives, right? Maybe my content should be about what should female executives look for in a coach, or I don't know, ways to find a coach in Chicago. And just think about that journey and go where your users seem to be looking for that. The downside is you're not going to get the insights on Google Analytics and Search Console because it's not your site, right? LinkedIn is LinkedIn's site. They're the only ones who know what's happening. You'll never know that. You'll get some very basic analytics. But if it gives you leads and ensures that people find you for the relevant search terms, who cares? They're finding you and they're hopefully becoming your customer. I hope that makes sense. The other part of SEO, so this is the third-party websites, right? I can see that these different headshots of mine, they actually seem to be from different social networks and things. And what's really funny is this first one is what my team told me I looked tired in. So that's my first search results. So my team, I have not forgotten yet. You guys are still on my naughty list. This picture happens to be from my book. I have a children's book, Sailor's Tale. It's about a rescue doggy, the one that's right next to me, aforementioned Sailor, the best dog on the planet. So this little panel is something you can claim. So if you are an author like me and Google has, searched the web and found that there's this entity called Magda, and she is an author of this book called Sailor's Tale, Google automatically creates this. So for companies as well, it creates that. So if your website has a contact page, and on that contact page, you list, your address that you're, in Chicago, and this is your phone number, and your hours are blah, blah, blah. Google's actually pretty likely to pick up that data. It's called structured data, and it's going to make a little panel for you as a company. That's going to exist, again, whether you like it or not, if Google thinks that that's the relevant thing to do. What you can do is you can claim this little panel. So in my case, I claimed this panel. And there's literally a thing that when you're logged into your browser in Chrome, it'll prompt you, do you want to claim this? But if you search for your name or your company name, you will, if there's a relevant panel for you, it'll show up. So just do that. That's your other homework. Google your name and your company name and see if a panel shows up. And if you don't already own it, then claim it. But this is all managed through a service called Google My Business, which we talked about last month, I believe. So that was also your homework, I think. Claim your Google My Business account. So if you've done your homework, you should be in good shape. If you haven't, do that now. Google My Business. This will help you either add a side panel for some search results that are relevant, but it'll let you also edit one if it already exists. It'll let you claim it so that there you can add in some details about who you are, what your business is about, links to social media. For some reason, it only let me link my LinkedIn one, not my others. I don't know. It clearly is finding them because these are all headshots from my different social networks. So yeah, who knows? Google has its own reasons for things. But this is part of SEO, right? I'm not paying for this. It's not an ad. It's not on my website, but it is something that is showing up in search engine results. And it is something that I've claimed and therefore am able to have some control over, at least, so that, this little bit is correct. And it actually wasn't, because it had, my bio from when I published the book, which was in 2014, I think. So things have changed since then, 2 companies from now. So I did edit this, and now it's accurate. Yeah, holy crap, you guys. It's my 15th swear, first of all. Second of all, it's almost an hour, and I haven't even gone through half my presentation. So yeah, that's on me. But I do want to check in, has anything made sense? Has anything been helpful? Even a thumbs up or thumbs down? Yes, Kamal, tell me things, please.
Okay, so we found a lot about that so far. So we can do all of this to create an identity and to make sure that people are seeing us, that we are visible, right? So that's one very important aspect, to be
Mhm.
visible in front of the clients. And we've also spoke a little bit about how that information help us sort of develop and design our content so that we are more and more visible, right? So
Mhm.
apart from visibility, how else this SEO can really benefit the businesses?
Visibility is the number one, obviously, but I think the one thing to keep in mind is that you cannot control what other people do, right? Again, as coaches, we don't coach um, someone's team, we coach the person. That's, we don't have control of anybody else. Same goes for this. People are going to search for you. Everything we talk about in this webinar series, it all relates to each other, right? It all goes back to the same thing. People are going to look for you. It's up to you whether you want to leave that up to chance or whether you want to do something about it. So things like claiming your social media profiles, making sure that your website has relevant information and current information, those are all kind of trust points of validation that your customer will get when they do search for you, because they will. When you're going on a date, when you're looking for a new service provider, we always do it. Even if you specifically, person who is listening, is not, others will. So optimizing your website, optimizing the things that show up when people search for your name and for your brand. If you do your best to make sure they're accurate and true and reflect what you do as a person, as a business, as a whatever, that's only going to give you credibility and validation. I mean, right now, honestly, like, this is embarrassing, but I feel like it's good to say. I'm fairly certain that my website says that I'm a marketing consultant, because that's what I was when I put it up. Unless I had the foresight to change it, I don't remember. I don't think I did. I have to look. Honestly, the fact that I don't is really freaking embarrassing. So I just haven't had the time for it. Those who yeah, I can teach about it, right? But I can't do it myself. I can do it myself, I just haven't. um but if someone's looking for Magda Walczak, hopefully they will see Coacharia related stuff, and there's enough Coacharia related stuff that I think my website's going to be on the second or third page, so I'm not that worried about it. And I'm also the kind of person that wears her heart on her sleeve. So anything I've said, like, I'm going to own up to it. If you don't like it, we can talk about it, but I'm not going to erase anything from the internet, or try to, because that's who I am as a human, full stop. So what you find about me, I don't care, whatever. If you judge, you judge, I don't mind. But if there was something where I was just a complete idiot, or I don't know, my opinion changed, and it was on my website, I have the power to go back and edit it, right? So imagine if someone was searching for Coacharia and they find, I don't know, Magda hates all dogs, and they are the owner of Pedigree, and they want to hire Coacharia to coach all of their executives. They're probably not going to want to work with someone who hates all dogs, right? Um, so I could maybe even have spent all the time offline trying to convert Pedigree into a client. Then they Google me and they find a blog post from 2011 where I talk about how dogs are awful, which they wouldn't, because that's not true, because that's the opposite of the truth. Dogs are amazing, in case we have not gotten that point in this webinar yet. So people are going to look. It's up to you whether you help them find things that are relevant and accurate.
Wonderful. It's very useful, I would say. And I can vouch because I found Coacharia through the search. And really, what really worked for me in Coacharia website, one, I really find the way it looks, it's very pleasing, soothing, very calming, very structured. And
Good.
I love the logo. The logo itself speaks volume, and then
That
I
makes me
found,
happy.
yeah, the logo and then the rest of the information and the kind of blog posts were there. Even if you don't go in the depth, the topics sort of, match. So it's like there is a synchronicity that you feel and sense, which is good. I think that was really good.
Awesome.
Hmm. Good.
Yay. Cool. That makes me happy. Do you know what you searched for? Do you remember?
I searched for, I don't really remember what was my first. I did search something relating to coaching programs, sort of something, coach. And
Okay.
then I found ICF. And then I also searched in the ICF directory, and Coach Arya sort of picked up my attention. I was like, let me search a little more about it. And then the moment I
Yeah.
saw the website, I think that was a good decision point for me. I was like,
Cool. Oh my gosh.
yeah, it
My cheeks
worked.
hurt. I'm so happy. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so all work is very well. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think there are
Um,
quite a lot of
yeah.
important tips in, especially when you showed the entire timeline to that page, that you've created one content, but it helps you pay back over a period of time in so many different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much more to this. Like, honestly, there's a reason why there's so many SEO consultancies. There's a reason why there's so many resources. Oh, resources. That's the last thing I'll put up. So people don't go yet. Take a screenshot of this, or actually don't take a screenshot. Just go to the website later. Share screen, Google Chrome, share. Yeah. So resources. I think what I will do if there's support for it. So I'm not going to do it yet until I hear from people. Um, I think it's worthwhile doing some sort of like SEO mini course where you can kind of self-pace through, because yeah, we skipped 4 slides and they were like really meaty. So if this is something you guys are interested in, just ping me or just tell me on socials or on Coach Aria's socials that yes, can you please do more on SEO? And I will get my act together and put together a free course on the LMS where you can go through this stuff and have like checklists of what to do. So tell me that's going to be helpful. But in the meantime, I think there's so much that exists already that isn't tied into coaching, which I guess is where I can add the benefit. But SEO affects every single business / person that has customers of any kind, right? So there's a lot of free stuff already out there about it. So I really like so Moz. Moz is a
My, can you hear me, Kamal?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, my headphones just died. I really like Moz. It is also a paid service. They do consulting and other stuff. I'm not encouraging you to buy or not buy. I've used them before. I'm not using them now. But in terms of resources, they have some amazing, amazing stuff at all levels. And they actually organize their content based on your knowledge level. So highly encourage you to start there. Moz.com, lots of great stuff. Um, Search Console, we already talked about. That's the Google one. Google Analytics, we talked about. Website Grader is, so it's actually a sales tool of HubSpot. So HubSpot is a customer relationship management system. We use it at Coach Aria. I've used it quite a bit. They've got a free version as well. I think it's a great tool. It's not the only one out there, but it's really easy to use, which for me is the most important thing when I look at software. So I do recommend HubSpot regardless. But they have this little marketing gimmick, website.grader.com, where you put in your website and it does a scan, but it shows you like 10 things that it thinks are most important in terms of SEO. Are you doing them or are you not? So it's very basic, but honestly, for anyone who's starting out, like, yeah, this is a great place to start. So check out Website Grader. It takes 2 seconds. They will ask you for your email and you will get emails from them, just FYI.
Yeah.
But that's okay. No,
Uh, sh-
HubSpot, honestly, HubSpot has a lot of great resources in marketing in general. So I recommend you just check out HubSpot if only you want to learn. Huge library. Sorry, Kamal.
Priya has said, put in a comment saying, apart from keywords, how do you design content for the website? Any third party hired?
Oh, in terms of like design, I used a friend of mine who I called in a favor, and he was lovely, and he's an amazing designer, but he's not a freelancer anymore. I don't have any right now, but I think we should put some together. Yeah. Look, I love the gig economy for this kind of stuff, actually. So Upwork is a great place to find people of all sorts of, tech background or technical abilities, I should say. 99 Designs is another really great one. Fiverr, Fiverr, I believe, is another great one. All of those will have 99 Designs and Fiverr are specifically around designy things. Upwork is for anybody, for any kind of task you need done. So I use Upwork and I have used them quite a bit in general. But there you can put in your parameters of, what are you looking for, a designer? Is it, are they designing a WordPress site, or what are, like, you can filter through all that. And what's really nice is that there's a hiring process. It's not just like you take somebody on faith. There's reviews, they have portfolio samples, so you can look at the work they've done and decide whether it's something that you like. And only, speak to the people that are doing the kind of design work that you like. So I highly encourage you to check out Upwork and just put in your limitations, your budget. GT Metrics is one that I would also check out. And that's one for your website specifically. So just like Website Grader is going to give you like the soft stuff, like you need to blog more, or very basic high level stuff. GT Metrics goes into a lot more depth. Again, it's a free tool. But what that one does is it does a very detailed scan of your, but quick one, scan of your site. And it tells you how long it takes for your site to become visible to someone when they're going to it. Why is that important? It's important in terms of, well, SEO, sorry, specifically. Site speed. Remember how we talked about the HTTP versus S? That's like, right now, that's like table stakes. That's yes, you have to have an S if you want to rank for stuff. The next one after that is site speed. If your site is slow, you're not going to rank high. Full stop. And what's cool about GT Metrics is that it breaks things down to such detail and gives you actions. Also really cool. So you can take some actions as a result. So some of these need to be beyond your control, especially if you're using a third-party site like Wix or Squarespace. But those tend to do pretty well especially for small businesses. They usually have good SEO baselines. They're just not great when you have a lot of traffic. But for small business owners, they're perfectly fine. But GT Metrics will tell you about other things, like maybe the images you're uploading are too big, or if you are, again, I'll put this slide up, but there's a slide that I had on these basics. So there's a concept of header tags. You know how you're in a Word document and you can decide something is a heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. All that is also on web pages. So web pages have hierarchies of content. In the web page world, header 1, there should only be one, just like Highlander. God, I am aging myself. So there should only be one heading 1 tag on a given page. And that tells search engines, this page is about the thing that is marked header 1 in the code. So something like GT Metrics will flag things like that. So yeah, on one side. On the other side, it might flag things like I said, image sizes. That's another really big one, because the bigger something is, the longer it takes for your web page to load. So if you have, for example, little thumbnails of logos, well, those can be small files. So like upload a 200 pixel by 200 pixel file. Don't upload the original vector graphic that's 3000 pixels by 3000. Like, why? That's no value. So GT Metrics will pick up all that kind of stuff, and that will help you very much. I highly recommend it. Whitespark I put on here. I actually haven't used them in the past couple of years, but I've used them before, so I need to actually check this site. But the reason I put it up there is Whitespark is a directory service, a local or subject matter directory service. So because most of you are small business owners, you operate in a particular niche or you operate in a particular geographic area, there is something that defines the parameters of your business. Of course, maybe you do other things, or you can work on, bigger companies through Coacharia, for example. Like, I'm not saying that you're limited to the scope, but you're starting somewhere, right? So female executive coach in Chicago, for example. So what WhiteSpark does is it's a service that essentially signs you up for directories on the web and websites that are SEO, rank well in SEO, and puts you in the right categories. So even if your website isn't ranking by itself, perhaps someone who's searching for executive female coach in Chicago, they will find, I don't know, chicagocoachingdirectory.com, and I'll be listed there. So it used to be like $100 for WhiteSpark as like a one-time exercise. Anyway, if somebody uses that, please write to me and let me know how your experience was, because again, I haven't used them in a while, but I think it's great little service. Copyblogger I put on here because that is also not a great website in terms of learning how to write. Again, your SEO is about language and it's about writing for humans. It's not about putting in female executive coach in Chicago 45 times on a page. In fact, that's terrible, right? It's called keyword stuffing. It's a practice that went out of fashion about 15 years ago. Don't do it. But what you should do is think about, the person who would hire a female coach and executive coach in Chicago, what's important to them? How do I speak to them? Kind of go back to that customer journey we talked about. That's useful in so many places, including how to write copy. If your target is, let's say women over 50 who have risen through the corporate structure at a large firm, perhaps talking about Sailor all the time isn't going to be the best way for me to reach them. I need to, think about what's in their mind, what's important to them, what struggles they face that I can empathize with, putting myself in their shoes, not just my shoes. So Copyblogger is a great resource to help you kind of figure out how to write for an audience versus just writing for yourself. Yeah, great resource. Can't say enough good things about it. And then last thing I put on here is Haro, help a reporter out. I think it's help a reporter, .com, I put it on there. So help a reporter out is awesome. We didn't talk about link building in this session, because again, it's a whole other thing. A lot of times when an SEO company approaches you as a small business owner, what they will probably talk to you about, at least some of the time, they'll talk about link building. They'll talk about rewriting things on your site, and they'll talk about link building. In terms of rewriting things on your site, yes, you could hire somebody externally for that. But we coaches, especially, like, our world is pretty specialized in terms of what we do. Even the little thing of coaching versus mentoring, or coaching versus counseling. You don't want to have the impression that you're a counselor if you're a coach. Someone who writes SEO things for a living isn't going necessarily to get that nuance. I mean, we have people, one of the first things we cover in classes, right? When you come to Coacharia for Coaching Foundation, we talk about what is coaching, and we talk about what coaching is not. That's the first couple sessions. So people who already identify that they want to become coaches may not know what coaching is. So if we need to do that, an SEO person isn't going to know that, and they're not going to grasp it in 5 seconds. So that's why I really encourage you to get to know your site and put yourself in the mindset of your customers and actually do the writing yourself. At least in the beginning, I think you have higher chances of being successful than outsourcing that part. The other part that people are going to talk to you about is link building, or offsite SEO. And it's a smaller practice now because, again, the universe of SEO has changed. Like, content quality really is the most important thing right now. But having links to your site elsewhere is going to help as well in SEO, but also in terms of just contextual things. Like, imagine if you're reading an article on Forbes, right? And the article is about 3 ways coaches can help you increase your revenue. And in there, it links to your blog post about where you talk about a case study of a client you worked with where you increased revenue times 3. Someone who's reading that article on Forbes already trusts Forbes, right? which means that they trust the links that Forbes is putting on that website. So if Forbes thought that your article on your case study was trustworthy, the reader is going to think that it's trustworthy. So even if it's not going to impact your SEO results, which it will, but even if it didn't, you're still getting this huge trust point through a third party. So how do you get those links? When an SEO person comes to you, they will have different tricks up their sleeve, some good, some not so great, about building links. Again, the world has changed. I would rather invest my time in getting some quality links that are actually contextual, i.e. through getting placed in a Forbes article, for example, and trying to kill two birds with one stone. Again, bad analogy, where I'm getting that SEO benefit as well as that credibility and trust benefit, right? Having a link. And that's where Haro comes in. Help a reporter out. What Haro is a 3 times daily, I believe now, newsletter type dealio, where people sourcing content, so journalists as well as bloggers, etc. There are limits, level you have to meet in terms of like your website traffic in order to be able to post as a reporter on there. So it's not going to be some, shady, small, whatever. Like it's going to be legitimately sized websites and news sources that are going to post requests on Haro under many categories. And those reporters are looking for sources. Subscribing to this, even if you just do it for, the business, because there's different industries you can subscribe to, and it's free. And just scanning it even like once a week and answering any relevant source requests. It's not guaranteed, but it doesn't take much time. It means that not only are you getting a link, if it does work, not only are you getting a link to your site, but you're also getting a third-party trust mention of you as an expert in the thing that you are replying to. So that's pretty great. And then, what could happen as well is, depending on what that site is, maybe they're amazing at search results. So even if your site isn't ranking or your name isn't ranking, if that site does, then people can still find you. So it's kind of like indirect SEO, but it's still SEO in my mind. So I haven't been too good at this lately. Again, we're trying to grow our team, especially in India. If you guys have people who want to work for us, tell me. But yeah, so I'm slacking on that one personally. But just, I say subscribe, take a look at it, and see if there's, for next time, your homework. Monitor the queries and answer at least one reporter query and just see what happens. I inadvertently, I think I told you this guys before, I forget, because as my team says, I'm getting old. I used to be a serial returner of things before I learned that what happens with Amazon is when you return, or most places, when you return something, it doesn't go back on the shelf. It goes into landfill. I did not know that. Now that I know that, I no longer buy things that I may return. I'm very considerate with what I purchase. Back then, I think like 4 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, like I ended up being on local news. I can't even tell you how many stations around the US, because a local reporter in Chicago put up a thing saying, I'm looking for someone who buys multiple sizes of clothing and then returns the one that doesn't fit. And I'm like, yeah, I do that like all the time. So like they came to my house. There was a video crew. They had me opening packages. Then we did a little interview downtown. And this is me before, like I was just Magda and not trying to figure out what I'm going to do next in my life. I wasn't even like, I didn't have a title in terms of a job at this point. Okay. So it just tells you. But I was the right kind of person for that thing. They filmed me walking down Michigan Avenue with shopping bags. It was embarrassing. Anyway, it got picked up as syndication all over the country. And for 6 months, I would get phone calls from random people or messages. Hey, Magda, I haven't seen you in 10 years, but I just saw you on Arizona's Evening News, a serial returner. Yeah. So good things can happen.
They were only serial killers. I had no idea there were serial
returners, not serial killers. I don't kill anybody. I have had to put down a few mice in my day because I also have cats, and cats are assholes and they are killers. And I've had cats who caught a mouse and injured it but didn't kill it, and I had to put up with misery. It was the most terrible thing ever. So I am a serial killer, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. Holy shit, went way over time.
Oh, but
Sorry.
I would say these resources were very useful, very, very useful, because not just resources, they picked upon some very important aspects of the work also.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I will put this up, and I will ask that you guys comment on the blog post when it goes up so you can tell me what's actually useful and what we should do more of, because there's so much. And frankly, I don't know where to start.